Hey everybody. All right, it's time for chapter 4 of Lions of Little Rock. So I hope that you guys are enjoying it. For this chapter, you have two response questions that you should be thinking about as you listen to me read and follow along. One is what's going to happen on September 12th? And then how does Judy feel about that? And the second one is explaining why Marley wishes she was more like the lions in the zoo. So the chapter is called Five Little Words. And I remember thinking back, like Marley promised Judy she would say at least 5 words at school. So maybe that has something to do with this chapter. I always walked home from school. Guess Daddy figured I'd be safe enough with all the other kids around. Last year, I tagged along with Sally, but today she stayed late to watch the boys play football. As soon as I opened our front door, I could tell Judy was in a bad mood. School's not going to start until at least September 15th, she yelled at me from the kitchen. What am I going to do at home until then? I hung up my jacket and followed Judy's voice into the kitchen. Judy was sitting at the table watching Betty Jean pull a batch of cookies out of the oven. Betty Jean was tall and always wore a flowered apron over her clothes when she was at our house. To be honest, I'd been pretty upset about having a stranger hanging around, even if she was doing chores so I wouldn't have to. But Betty Jean didn't say much, and she never tried to get me to talk to her. Eventually, I thought of her as water. She took on the flavor of whoever else was around. There's a U.S. Supreme Court hearing on Friday, September 12th, Judy explained, to decide if the Little Rock schools have to follow the plan Superintendent Blossom came up with for integration. And after that, I asked. Hopefully, said Judy, the schools will be open again and they'll decide to give this whole integration thing a rest for a year or two. It sounded like Judy was against integration. I knew Daddy supported it, and I always thought it was a good idea myself. Why have two sets of school when one would do? But I didn't ask Judy about it, even though I knew she wanted me to. Judy does so much for me. I hate it when we disagree. I watched Betty Jean use a spatula to put the cookies onto a piece of wax paper on the counter to cool. Mother agrees with me, said Judy, like she'd read my thoughts and was trying to convince me to come around to our side. She said so this morning before she left. Judy picked up one of the cookies and then dropped it. It was too hot to eat. Betty Jean poured me a glass of milk and handed me a plate of cookies. We nodded at each other. The cookies, oatmeal, chocolate chip, were delicious, but when the warm cookies didn't erase the pit in, but even the warm cookies didn't erase the pit in my stomach. I wasn't sure I could trust Judy's opinions about integration, but I also wasn't sure I could trust my own. And worst of all, Judy didn't even ask me about the 5 words. I could have brought it up, maybe I would have, but it wasn't till Betty Jean had gone home and we were eating dinner that I got the opportunity. Mother told us all about her lesson plans and complimented Judy on the job she'd done washing the windows before she got around to asking me about the first day of school. Fine. I looked at my plate. I said 2 sentences. What? Said Judy. Marley, why didn't you say something earlier? I shrugged. Oh my goodness, said Mother, holding her hand to her heart like women do in the movies when they are about to faint. Atta girl, said Daddy. What'd you say? Asked Judy. Please sit down. And I did. And then I grinned, embarrassed. It's silly to get so excited about 5 stupid words. It's not silly, said Mother. What did Sally say? Asked Judy. I wasn't talking to Sally, I admitted. Everyone stopped eating and turned to look at me. I didn't like that. It was a new girl, I explained quickly. Her name is Liz, and she just moved here, and she has nice teeth. That was a stupid thing to say. No one cares about teeth. I should have mentioned her nails instead. Well, said Mother, and it sounded like she was just about ready to burst with pride, I'm sure you made her feel quite welcome. Mother was pleased with me. I didn't know what to say. Daddy just grinned. Why don't you invite her over sometime? Mother suggested. Betty Jean could make lemonade and sandwiches, and Judy laughed. Maybe tomorrow she could just say hello. It was a really good dinner. But that night in bed, instead of being happy, I felt kind of sad. Most of the time, I act like it doesn't bother me that I don't talk much. Usually, I'm pretty convincing, even to myself. But sometimes at night, when I hear the lions roaring and they're really going at it, just growling and yowling and roaring like a jet engine, sometimes I wish I could be like them. That I could just yell out whatever I was thinking or feeling and not care one whit who heard. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I can almost convince myself that I'm going to do it, that I'll just start talking. But by the time I wake up in the morning, the lions are always silent, and so am I. And that is the end of chapter 4. There was a word that was used a lot in that chapter, integration. And so I heard Marley say that she thought one school would be better than two. And this whole idea of what you guys have researched already on integration, like you should have some ideas about it. So what I want you to do before you start writing your journal responses is I want you to talk about the word integration and what that means as it's used in this novel. Have a good day.